All right, welcome to another edition of the Big Blue Report featuring that guy, the two-time Super Bowl champion, and Jonathan Casillas, along with the professor, the man, the myth, the legend. We call him the Yoda of Spaceballs. That's right, it's Ryan Darlington and Randy Zellea from backsportspage.com, of course. And gentlemen, 1-4. And we lost a lot more than just the game on Sunday. JC, wow. I don't know where to go with this. Last year at this time, it was 3-4. It was 4-1, and not 1-4. What a difference a year makes. First things first, the Miami game. Daniel Jones goes down with injury. What's happening with this New York Giants team?
Well, number one, offensively, the offensive line, I mean, they put in a couple guys last week, and I know this roster very well. Had no idea who those guys were. And they just, activated the two Jalen's off of the practice squad, Jalen Thomas and the other guys.
Mayfield.
Yes. They just activated those guys off the practice squad. They just signed them to the practice squad, and they were playing right away. So it's the offensive line, when healthy, wasn't playing that well in the beginning, and now they have backups replacing backups, guys moving and playing in different spots. You got a right guard playing left tackle. It's just very tough, and the offensive line is literally that's your front line. You know what I mean? Like, that's the guys that's going to protect your most valuable commodity in Daniel Jones and your quarterback, whoever's playing quarterback this week. You're going to be able to establish the physical presence with the run game. And then also, we got a caller today talking about the defensive line going against the offensive line and how that makes them better. And I never even thought about that. The guys on the Giants defensive line are going against backups on a consistent basis. So how are they getting better? It's literally it's bad. And it really starts with the offensive line. The porous, that they've been showing their porous type of behavior with they're just letting guys through. Guys are getting beat one-on-one consistently. They can't pick up stunts. And that just, it's 18 sacks in the last 2 weeks, guys.
Yeah.
Like, that's an absurdly amount of pressure and sacks. And the cumulative effect, I think you saw that not on just the offense, but on Daniel Jones. He's out. We're probably going to be out this week. I don't think it's for sure, but Daboll is not going to give us anything. So I think he's going to be out. And even last week when Tyrod Taylor came in, he was running for his life as well. So I don't expect them to improve this week given the absence of Thomas, Barkley most likely, and Daniel Jones. You got your three offensive players out. I do think the defense, I wouldn't say they took a step forward, but now they found a way to make plays, which they really haven't done before. But I think there's a false sense of confidence with that group.
Yep.
I think they feel like they've accomplished something. You guys still got blown out.
Right.
Creating 3 turnovers, scoring a defensive touchdown, that shows you that the Giants are so far away from these elite or at least really good teams in the NFL, and they have a lot of ground to make up and not a lot of time.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, I give 100% credit to, I think it was Okereke that caused that first fumble. The 2 interceptions that we were looking at last game, I could have caught those balls, right? They were really bad decisions, really bad throws by Tua. And listen, I'll give credit where credit's due. They took advantage of those mistakes and they made something of it. But JC, you're absolutely right. It's they're still at the bottom of the barrel, at the bottom of the list in nearly every category when you keep track of the defense. To your point about the offensive line, I mean, a number of coaches will tell you that this game begins and ends in the trenches. It starts and finishes with the offensive and defensive fronts. And so one of the things that you need for improvement and continued success is continuity along those lines, because what the offensive line entails is 5 guys working together, communicating with one another, knowing what the other's tendencies are, where they're going to be, what they're going to need to do, being able to kind of work off of each other to provide a consistent and cohesive front which is what creates the pockets for the quarterback. And I mean, we'd be going in to this next game with our 6th offensive line configuration. And there's just no possible way that you can get any sort of continuity. And it's not like we have the pick of the litter when it comes to the top talent. We're relegated to whoever's available. And I'm not, going to denigrate Justin Pugh. He's a great guy, but he's a little long in the tooth. I'm not going to denigrate the gentleman from the Bengals, I guess, that was working out with the Jets.
Leo Collins.
That's the one. But these guys are all new, and so they're going to take time to get up to speed. I mean, Randy, I think we've mentioned a number of times that an offensive line is a 2 to 3 year proposition.
Yeah,
if you're going to build a real, true, cohesive offensive front, you need the same guys in game and game out for 2 years, something like that, 3 years, and we can barely field a consistent line game by game.
And the thing that bothers me the most is we were sitting here looking at what we thought was going to be. We're sitting there, I remember when Andrew Thomas was drafted and Gettleman said on the media call to us, I want to solve this offensive line problem that we have once and for all.
Yeah.
It's reared his ugly head again, and I'm trying to figure out exactly how you fix it. And that's the part that sort of baffles me, because you're looking at that first series of the Cowboy game with Andrew Thomas going down. We haven't had a real offensive line together since preseason. I don't know. I'm very, very. I'll tell you what my main concern is. My main concern happened. Daniel Jones keeps getting sack after sack after sack after sack after sack after sack, and eventually it came up and finally caught up with him. And now he's probably going to be missing his first game of the year. First time in two seasons he's going to be missing a game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one guy you didn't want to be having on the bench. And it looks like right now they're in no rush to bring Saquon Barkley back into the bench.
Why would you be? Why would you put him? I mean, if he's not 100%, he's not 100%, and there's a chance that he makes that injury even worse, why would you put him up against the buzzsaw of the front four of the Buffalo Bills? I mean, what's the point in that? Do we win the game if he's in?
Well, that's the thing. I don't think we
do.
I mean, look,
playoffs. Playoffs? You kidding me? Trying to win a game.
Playoffs.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, we've just got to be realistic about where we are, right? And the receivers that we have are capable, but we can't get them the ball. The quarterback that we have has regressed significantly this year, in part because of the scheme, in part because he's got happy feet and he's running for his life. 30 sacks. Guys, 30 sacks through 5 games. I mean, it's crazy.
And not only that, and then you have a head coach who's stuck up there, stuck up at the podium trying to answer questions that he doesn't really have answers for at this point.
Yeah.
That's the point. That's the part that's disheartening, because I don't want to say it like this, but it's going to come out wrong the way I'm going to say it, but I have to say it this way. He was pumping his chest when the things were going great last year. And now, he's not. He's got to be able to,
I will say that
he owned it. He owned it. Yeah, last week he owned it, where he said this loss is on me. But I don't know what. JC, help me out here, because I need to know from a player perspective. Because you've been on both spectrums of the winning side and the struggling side. Like, if you're in the locker room when this stuff is happening like this, how do the guys pull together?
By winning. That's it. There's only one solution to this. It's winning. If not, it will get worse. You will see the locker room deteriorate. It's just going to happen. These guys aren't a collective group that's been together for years and been through the ups and downs. No. Some of these guys were here last year. They went through the ups. It was really good last year. They made it to the playoffs. They won a playoff game on the road. And this year, you got a lot of new faces in there, a lot of young talent, and they've seen a lot of downs this year. And it's very easy for somebody or a group of men to not be cohesive when things are going bad, because they haven't been through the ups and downs, the wins and the losses. They've just seen a whole bunch of losses. Guys, they've been through a lot of quarters. How many? You got 5 games, so that's 20 quarters. They've played 2 good quarters of football.
Yep.
2 out of 20. That is it.
Oh,
And
God.
it's very, very difficult for a group of men to stay together when everything's bad. It's very difficult for a group of men to stay confident when everything looks so bleak. And I don't hear nobody pointing fingers quite yet.
That's what I was about to say.
I think the defense is kind of feeling like, okay, we're taking the next step and creating turnovers. We scored a defensive touchdown. The only touchdown in the first half of this entire season is from the defense last week. And after a while, it's going to be the defense is like, hey, we're doing our part. You got to do. It didn't happen quite yet. I've been hearing some of the interviews. I've been hearing some of the guys basically saying, like, we're playing well enough to win the game. I hear some people outside of the building saying that the defense is playing well enough to win the game. And the week prior, when they limited Seattle and Seattle couldn't do certain things, they were 3 of 12 on third down, and they didn't look like offensively Seattle they were that productive. They still lost decisively. And they lost the turnover battle 3-0, and they gave up 11 sacks on offense, and the defense had no sacks. Last week, against Miami, the most explosive offense in the NFL, they caused 3 turnovers, which was fantastic, and then they also had a defensive touchdown. That usually means that you're going to win the game, usually.
Well, not when you give up 524 yards.
Bingo.
No.
They got beat very convincingly because they gave up 524 yards total, over 10 yards per play, over 200 rushing yards. Like, I'm sorry, there was no part of that game where you guys played well at all.
Right.
You just made a couple of plays.
Yep.
That's it.
Well, but it's interesting, though, because everything else is so bad that they feel like they can hang their hat on the fact that they made a couple of plays.
And that's all it was. It was just a couple of plays because Tua threw the ball right to them.
Literally, twice.
It went through Okereke's hands and into Pinnock's hands.
Yeah.
And then the other one was definitely right in it. Like, it's a lot of bad ball being played. And the only way they can turn anything around is by guys stepping up at each position. I think it starts on offensive line. Evan Neal has to play better. No matter where Brent Bredesen plays at, he has to play better. Andrew Thomas, they need him back. They need Saquon back. Whenever Daniel Jones gets activated, he gets healthy. He has to play and show signs like he's a very capable quarterback, because right now he doesn't look like he knows how to play football.
He's running for his life.
Right. But before that, before the hits were accumulating, we talked about this last week, his ball placement wasn't as it was last year. And I think you saw that. And now that happened. Throw that in with him, like you said, running for his life. Yep. You just get this bad football that we're seeing on a consistent basis. Yep. And this, I think, false confidence from the defense, because they're actually the only group that's actually making plays. So they feel some type of way about that. And I'm telling you guys, Buffalo, nobody's giving them a chance. They're 2 touchdown dogs.
Yep.
That's
14
crazy.
Points. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's really bad.
And guys, not only that too, if you remember a couple seasons ago when under Joe Judge, when Daniel went down, the team collapsed even more. But this obviously their situation is different. They don't have Mike Glennon as backup. They have Tyrod Taylor.
You have a very capable backup who's won a lot of games in this league. Yeah. But I'm sorry, I don't care who's playing quarterback. Mahomes, Hurts, Josh Allen, whoever. You can't win with the how the O-line has been playing.
Yep.
They have to play better.
Yep. You have to be able to get beyond your first read. You have to have time to get beyond that first read. When when it's not there, I think that's where we see Daniel getting nervous and kind of not having the accuracy and just kind of being lost because his first read isn't there and he doesn't have a chance to get to the second read, never mind the third.
I think too, guys, one of the big things that's concerning to me is you're starting to see heads hang. And if they're hanging,
I'm surprised it's taken this long.
No, but I mean, like they're hanging early in games. You know, when there's a turnover, when there's something that just happens. Last year, when there was a mistake happen, you were able to pick right up and like, okay, let's just go get it back.
Brush it off.
Yeah, there's no brushing off so far. And I know, and I think, you know, Ryan, you said it a couple weeks ago. Where's the grit?
Yeah.
Where's the grit?
I mean, look, I think what we're faced with, and this is the very difficult part, and it's going to sound like I'm dogging these guys, and I'm really not meaning to, but there's talent level is a major part of where we're at, right? I mean, we've got McKeithen's doing his best out there, but he's super young. This is, in essence, his first year, right? Jalen Mayfield, I don't know that he's an NFL caliber player, right? I mean, if you think about Bredesen is adequate at his position, but he's out of position. He's playing center. He's supposed to be a guard. Azudu, I mean, he held up sort of well in a couple of games, but the last couple, he's just been looking terrible. He was emotionally kind of distraught after last week's game because he knows he gave up the sack that hurt Daniel Jones. He's out of position. Evan Neal looks like he's out of position, even though he's not. I mean, just the bottom line is that the talent isn't there. And so what can you do in those situations aside from maybe bring some guys in from the outside and hope that they might be able to give you some sort of spark and some sort of cohesion? And
I know this is the most obvious comment in the world, and it's not the one the Giants fans had a different feel of at the beginning of the year. But at 1-4, you know, the schedule does lighten up a little bit after this week because you have teams that you'd be able to.
No, it doesn't. Don't get it twisted. You're talking about the Jets defense, bro.
Right. Well, I'm talking about Washington coming up next.
Washington defensive line.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now you look at them on offense. Okay, cool. You know, Sam Howell's not that good. You know, they don't really run the ball that well. They try to run the ball, but like even the Jets too, the quarterback, whatever. But their defensive line, both of those teams are the strengths of their team.
Yep.
So it's not going to be any easier. Like I want to agree with you. I really do. But I looked. It's not going to get any brighter, bro.
Let me put it this. Let me put it to you this way: a lot of the teams that are coming up are not in that Super Bowl contender category. Let's put it that way.
I agree with you with that one.
Okay, so like, because you have Washington, the Jets. I'm going to pull up the schedule coming up here. You have Washington, the Jets. You have the Raiders. You have then you have the Cowboys again on November 12th. Then you have the Commanders.
Bro,
then you have the
Max Crosby, fam. I watched him the other night running around like a crazy guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Madness.
Then you have the New England Patriots, and you finally get the bye week at week 13. Then you're home for the Packers, the Saints, and then you have the 2 out of the 3 with the Eagles, and the Rams are stuck in the middle there.
Let me put it this way. I mean, when we began the season, and we all had the expectations that maybe they would be able to stand toe-to-toe with some of the elite teams, or at least the better teams in the league. And as each week goes by, those expectations lower and lower and lower. And I think right now we're in the position of it's going to be a battle to beat the worst teams in the league.
Yep.
It's going to be a battle to beat the Raiders. It's going to be a battle to beat Green Bay if they have a bad day, right? I mean, it's going to be it's going to be hard to beat any of these sort of middling teams in the league. And I mean, right now it doesn't even feel like we've got a chance against the Commanders or anybody else in our division, much less, you know, some of these other folks that were out there that we still have to play.
And Randy, after week 1, that was for me. It shell shocked me, you know, and I actually had to get like a little bit more detached because I'm sitting there stressed out over the 40-0 loss Sunday Night Football. Maybe that was because I got home at like 2:30 in the morning after the game. But I was like feeling some
what
type
were
of
you
way.
doing,
like, bro,
Jay-Z?
you retired 5, almost 6 years ago. Like, relax, you know. Yeah. So once I detached myself from, you know, like the locker room and, you know, put my analyst / broadcast, you know, hat on and then lowered my expectations because I think every single Giants fan out there had very high expectations for this team because last year we saw a roster who we felt like wasn't the most talented roster excel, and I use those words because at the end of the year last year, the Giants was a formidable force.
Yep.
They were very competitive in almost every single game. There were only a couple games where they weren't competitive, and we're 5 games in, and they've won one game, and they've really only been competitive in the one game. And that's where the fan base, that's where we're all really like kind of shell shocked because it's like we thought this team was going to be at least a playoff caliber team. Now we're not even competitive against some of these teams that possibly are playoff teams and teams that are playoff teams that are Super Bowl contenders. We're getting washed off the field.
Shellacked.
And that's hard. That's hard to swallow.
Yeah.
And not only that, I'll put it even in more of a perspective for you. You ready for this? Last year, we were one of the final 8 teams in the NFL. And now we're wondering if we end up with the number 1 pick, if we're picking a quarterback or not.
Nah, they're not picking a quarterback, though. They ain't going to do that. They're not going to do that. Even if the Giants, let's say the Giants don't win no more games, right? And they go 1-16. There is 0% chance they're going to pick quarterback. There's no way that you just signed Daniel Jones and you pick first as you pick a quarterback. Do you know what that will do? What that says about Joe Shane and Dayball? There's no chance.
The only thing I'm going to tell you, there is a reason why there is an out clause for the Giants after next season.
After next season,
right?
I understand that, but I got to tell you something. You look at their contract situations with the guys that they have. There is a lot of the guys who are on this roster that will be here next year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm just throwing that out.
Daniel Jones being number one.
Daniel Jones being one of them, but I have to throw that out there. It's not going to get better overnight. And if there's Giants fans who thought, again, I said this before. I know you guys gave me a rash of shit. Excuse my language. Over the offseason on how I was still being a little down on the situation because you look at all the past errors that has been done to this organization between Jerry cleaned up in 1 year. It just doesn't. Mm-hmm. Look, JC, you were here when Gettleman got here. And in 2018, all those guys that were there in 2017 that were in training camp got flushed out. It didn't matter how much talent they had. They were flushed out. Joe Shane is not able to just turn this whole thing around in 1 year and expect just to go next level. It just doesn't happen that way.
But I mean, to JC's point, I mean, I think you're absolutely right that it does something mentally to your organization if you draft a quarterback high, right? I would understand knowing that, yes, we've got Tommy DeVito, and yes, he's coming along and he'll be a serviceable backup. But maybe you draft somebody in the 3rd round and have him hold the clipboard for a year or two, depending on what happens with Danny next year. But unless there's an injury that ends his career, and I'm going to knock on wood as I say that because God help us all. But at the end of the day, that's your solution if Daniel can't,
especially with a neck
number 1 next year.
Especially with a neck injury. Like, man, like when I heard that it's the same neck he had surgery on.
Right. It's a different injury.
It's a different injury. But still, you're like you. As soon as I heard it was a neck injury, I'm like, oh man, no, like that.
Right.
You're like, oh.
I mean, they have one of the major problems that we've had is just an inability to protect him. Right. He doesn't protect himself. We've gone over this any number of times on the pod. Right. When we're saying he doesn't know how to take a hit, he cannot slide. Right. He's just not one of those guys that knows how to slide the right way or avoid the collision or whatever. He's taking hits. He's a tough guy. Definitely get it. It's part of his game. And some part of me actually does respect that. But it's incumbent upon an organization to protect your $160 million investment. And that's just not happening. So, I mean, at this point, I'm almost glad to give him a little bit of time, right? I mean, let's take a couple of days, right? If we had our entire cast of players and they were all healthy and they were all doing okay, right? I still think we'd have trouble with the Bills. In the situation that we're in, 14-point underdogs, the entire world has this as an L. So why are you going to try and rush people back in to a game that, is not likely to go in your favor, especially given the front four that they have?
I'm more shocked. I'm sorry. Go ahead, JC.
Nah, Daniel, like most injuries, when somebody gets taken out of the game, there's a very unlikelihood that they're going to play the next week, no matter what the injury is. Now you have a recurring injury, maybe not the same injury, but in the same spot. And it's not something like, I don't know, a finger or
right.
From the the non-throwing hand, or a wrist from the non-throwing hand, or shoulder from the non-throwing hand. This is the neck. This is the you have to turn your head. Like, you have to use this every single play when you're not getting hit. And then you take the fact that Daniel Jones cannot protect himself on his own. He has a horrible time trying to, when he leaves the pocket and he runs, I'm like this every time. Even if he has a great play, which when he runs, he usually, has some yards, and he does it at very, very, I think, timely times in the game where it's like, okay, great run. And then at the end, I'm just like this, because he doesn't know how to not take hits. And every single quarterback in the NFL knows how to slide. They know how to get out of danger, and he doesn't do that. Now, you couple that with the astronomical number of hits that he's taking inside the pocket, the ones he really can't control, that's a recipe for disaster when you talk about an injury to that area of your body. And not only physically, Daniel Jones needs a rest, I think mentally he needs to get a break, because he has been running for his life. He's been getting scrutinized. He's been getting most of the blame towards him. And he is the guy that says, I have to play better. And when you keep doing that and you keep shouldering that load, that weighs on you.
Yeah.
And he needs a break. And I'm not saying all right, let him get a break and he'll be rejuvenated. No, I'm not saying that. Let him get away from football for 1 second. Let him see how it is on the sideline. And I think he's going to see Tyrod Taylor probably running for his life. Hopefully Tyrod Taylor can stay healthy, because he is not as durable as Daniel Jones. First of all, Daniel Jones is probably the most durable player in the entire league, regardless of position. He takes the most hits, definitely out of any quarterback. Think about this, right? The Seattle Seahawks, they sacked him 10 times.
10 times. Yeah, the 11th was Paris Campbell.
Yeah. They sacked him 10 times. They hit him an additional 14 times, right? That's 24 times. That's not including none of the times he ran the football. So a quarterback being hit north of 30 times in one game?
Yeah. By professional football players. Yeah. By big men.
Huge, physical men that hit people all the time.
Yeah.
That's one game, and I'm just sitting there, and I feel bad for him. I really do feel bad for him, and it's really nobody's fault.
Yeah.
You can't control Andrew Thomas blowing out his hamstring. Saquon, I hate that the kid keeps getting hurt, but you can't control that. You can't control John Michael Smith going down. Evan Neal, he can take, the blame is definitely displaced.
So
you can't even blame Evan Neal.
Yeah. It's nobody's fault, and it's everybody's fault.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But by the way, little fun fact here. If Tyrod Taylor starts on Sunday, he is only the second African-American quarterback ever to start in Giants history.
The other being
Geno
Smith. How about that?
Little fun fact for everybody there.
That was the trivia, because we would have both got that
right.
No,
that's
certainly
shit
not
about the trivia. He's thinking
that was a layup. That was a layup.
That's a layup. Yeah. This ain't no layup. What I got for you boys this week.
Let's do it. Give me the trivia.
All right, let's do it. Are you ready for the question?
We'll talk Buffalo after the trivia. I'm ready for a break.
There's not much. There's not much to say, Ryan.
I've got a couple things. I'm a salty bitch today. I'm ready to go. I'm all about it.
Here is your trivia question. Trivia question is brought to you by JC. This is you.
Hey, Google. Not just play.
Alexa, build me up.
I was trying to give JC the promotional time for the truck. Our trivia question is brought to you by JC and
Food Expressions. Follow us on Instagram. We got the Caribbean food. We got the Jamaican Me Crazy, jerk chicken, and Weekend in These macaroni and cheese, and all other good stuff too.
Man, you got to get us a schedule where you're going to be so we can start advertising that. Okay, here is your question this week. Boom! Against which quarterback did Dexter Lawrence recorded his first career sack against?
This is
It's certainly not this season, but
this is just like a guess. You just got to just throw, you know.
I'm going to give you four choices.
I have a decent idea though. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah. All right, here we go.
A decent idea.
Is it A, Josh Allen, B, Jameis Winston, C, Kirk Cousins, or D, Dak Prescott?
So
do you need the choices again? Do you guys need the choices?
No, I got them. I'm going between the two.
Dak was the one that I was thinking initially without the answer. So
by the way, Ryan is up 2-0.
I'm up 2-0 right now.
Okay, so Ryan, go ahead and go first.
Locking it in. D, Dak Prescott.
Okay, JC.
I'm going to see Kirk Cousins.
Okay. Sadly, today you both are wrong.
Oh, wow.
The correct answer is B, Jameis Winston.
Famous Jameis.
And,
how about that?
And ready for this?
Down in Tampa?
Tampa.
Was that
the game that Daniel Jones debuted. Yep.
How about that?
I told you it was going to be a tough one, boys. I told you. Yeah.
That was definitely two guesses right there from us.
Well, no, but you know what though? Like I can see why Ryan. I understood why Ryan was going with Dak, just because it's so they play them so often, especially like on opening day of the season and stuff.
Yeah, they usually play them pretty early in the season. So
I feel like I would have remembered that. You know, like I feel like that one would have stuck out. But no.
See, I don't remember shit. So
The fact that JC remembered that was the Daniel Jones debut game, that's clutch right there.
Pretty good.
That's clutch.
Pretty good.
Guys, Buffalo coming up this upcoming Sunday night. Like I said, with the injuries, it still means something to Joe Shane and Brian Dable, whether they admit it or not. They're going back to, I guess, the house they helped build for the last couple of years. JC, you played against former coaches before. Is there something when they come back to the building? Is there something for them? Like, does that put a little pep in their step? Also, like for players and coaches when they go back to a former home?
Yeah, 100%. Like let's say the Giants go into Buffalo and they beat Buffalo, like the head coach would get the game ball. You know what I mean? Joe Shane would get the game ball because it does mean something, but the likeliness of that happening is very, 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 very small. And look, I'm not an optimistic person. I'm not a pessimistic person. I'm more of a realistic person. And Buffalo, they went to London. They played against the Jacksonville Jaguars team that stayed in London for 2 weeks. I didn't even know you could do that. They stayed in London for 2 weeks. They played back-to-back games in London. They ran the ball very efficiently on Buffalo. Trevor Lawrence was, spectacular at times in that game. That ball he threw late to Ridley was absolutely amazing. One of the best balls I've seen any quarterback throw all year. And they forced Buffalo to punt their first 2 possessions and 3 and out their first 2 possessions. And Buffalo really couldn't get anything going. But their defense played, I think, pretty solid ball. Epinesa, I had to learn his name. He had a tremendous game at outside linebacker. He had 3 sacks, a couple pass deflections. They have Von Miller back. Brousseau probably going to be back. Mm-hmm. They have Mike. They have a lot of great players on their defensive side of the ball. And this is probably the most conservative defense that they're going to face. And the reason why this Buffalo defense, they may give up yards, but they can get to the quarterback because they're playing zone and the quarterback has a little bit of time. And the quarterback, they can sit in the pocket a little bit longer, but they're throwing into more tighter windows.
Yeah.
Right. They're throwing in smaller windows with guys that are very experienced playing these positions. And the pass rushers are I mean, Leonard Floyd has, I think, 5.5 on the year, and he's not even close to being the best pass rusher on their team.
Right.
Ed Oliver is a beast at D tackle. And I'm just talking defensively because I think we all know Buffalo Bills offense. I think we understand what they can do on offense, Josh Allen, Diggs, and all that. But defensively, they're so difficult to beat because they do basic coverages better than everybody else in the league.
Yep.
Like, remember Tampa 2? Like, Tampa 2 used to suck against the run. But when Tampa Bay played it back in the day, they excelled at it. And they had a great middle linebacker in Derek Brooks. They had a great D tackle in Warren Sapp. They had a great corner, and they had the pieces. This is very similar to that team in terms of they can rush with 4 down. They can stop the run. Well, not stop the run. They can do well against the run. But the thing is, when you play Buffalo, you're going to have to score as much points as Buffalo scores.
Right.
So that means you're going to have to get a passing attack. They lead in the league in sacks. They lead the league in interceptions. When you have a team like that, you better be able to run the football.
That's what I was going to say.
Better be able to run the football. The
Yep.
Giants haven't done that yet. And my thing is with the Giants, at least attempt to run the football.
Yeah.
And I'm talking
Don't give
about,
up on it too early.
I'm talking about 25 carries. I don't care if you're averaging 1 yard a carry.
Yep.
Run the damn football this week.
Right.
Because if you start passing the ball with this defense, you're gonna get somebody hurt and you're gonna turn the ball over a lot. That's just what's gonna happen.
Yep.
Run the football. Take a possession away from Josh Allen. Fake field goal, fake punt. Go for it on 4th down. Do everything you can to basically not get blown out. Make it a fight, a street fight. Be able to contain their run because the Bills couldn't run the ball against Jacksonville.
Right.
So you know what they're going to try to do this week? They're going to try to run the football. So let's make it a fast game. Let's make it a game. Who's trying to establish the run? Who's going to do better against the run? Stop the run. Run the football. I don't care if you have success running the football, but keep running the football the entire game so it doesn't blow wide open like we've seen literally every single game, even the first half of the Arizona Cardinals game.
Yep.
And I think the recipe is to get into a street fight with these guys, be a little dirty, maybe get a penalty or two because you're playing hard and you're playing physical, not no mental error penalty, not no false start penalty, a little excessive stuff because you got to fight.
Play for pride.
Yes, you have to go out there and punch these guys in the mouth because Buffalo just got punched in the mouth by Jacksonville. Yes, it was another country, but that was how to do it. We saw Buffalo do the same thing to Miami. They hit them right in the mouth. Defensively, they were all over them. They didn't let them do anything. The Giants need to go ahead and just turn that physical knob all the way up. And even if you don't know how to block as an offensive lineman, you know how to run block. So let's go.
This is a get-right game for Buffalo, right?
Yeah.
This is one that they're looking at to say we need to get back on the tracks. We got beat in London. We're not looking to, seem like we're a beatable team. So we're going to bring whatever we got to the forefront against the Giants, who have been hapless to this point. But JC, to your point, I mean, the crazy thing about Buffalo is that they are, like you said, the top team in the league almost in sacks, if not the top team in the league, with just their front four. They don't rush 5-6 guys, right? They drop them back into coverage, and their front four is good enough that they can get consistent pressure, that they can get sacks. So to your point, again, JC, ball control the clock on offense, run those counters, run those pitches, right? Run things that go away from that major strength of the team. Because when you start getting into their cornerbacks, their safeties are super strong. When you start getting into the cornerbacks, when you start getting to that mid-level of defense, that's the only place you're going to find holes, right? So it's very quick 3-step drops. It's running to the outside, pitch plays, it's counter plays, it's screens, it's all of that stuff that's going to get you away from that front four quick so that you can maybe try and control the clock a little bit.
And by the way, one thing with Josh Allen, I have to say he is probably one of the most durable and mentally strong quarterbacks in the NFL today because I've seen him have games where he would throw maybe 2 or 3 interceptions in the first half,
right,
and still be mentally strong to say, you know what, that happened, that already happened. I can't go back and change it. Let's just get back out there, and he'll win games.
He's a gunslinger, right? I mean, he needs those chunk plays. So that was the other key on defense. If we can limit the reason why Jacksonville had success, the reason why I don't know why they're escaping me at this point. The other team that beat him this year, the reason why the Jets, Jets, Jets. The reason why they were able to beat him is because they limited those chunk plays. If you can keep them from, having those massive yard plays, then you can actually contain their offense a little bit. And Josh Allen, because he wants to make those chunk plays, because he's a gunslinger, if you put him in a position where he feels like he's not having success there, he's going to try harder to make success there, and he's going to make mistakes. He's going to throw bad balls trying to make something happen, whether he really needs to or not.
Yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. And again, I like – how sometimes you just watch certain guys in the NFL. And by the way, I have to go back and say this, but you watch certain guys in the NFL and you just admire their work. I'm one of those guys who really likes to watch Josh Allen play.
Yeah.
Every single person loves to watch Josh Allen play. He plays a very interesting and exciting game of football.
Yeah.
And he's throwing to top 5 receiver in the league. Both of his tight ends are really good.
Yeah.
Kincaid and Dawson Knox, I think, are very solid. Diggs had 3 touchdowns a couple weeks ago, bro. And just like breaking tackles, he runs the best routes. Like that's exciting. It's exciting football. I just hate that,
hate that it's against us this week.
Yeah. Well, it's fine. I know it's so sad.
Bring that good shit to somebody else. We want the shitty team.
Yeah, listen, I will tell you one thing that you were talking about before. It's totally off base and totally off topic, and I apologize for it. But I just have to say this: what a difference for Trevor Lawrence having when they made that coaching change. It's amazing.
Doug Peterson, yeah,
Doug Peterson, Super Bowl coach, a guy who's won, and there's no other, and he's a quarterback coach. And I said, man, Trevor Lawrence is either going to sink or swim now. And I got to tell you, man, he is exciting and fun to watch. He's blossoming into a great quarterback.
Good coaching.
You know what's so funny about Jacksonville? I feel like Jacksonville is the team that you don't really want to bet on or bet against because they're going to beat the team that they're not supposed to beat.
Right.
And they're going to lose to the team that they're not supposed to lose to. I think that's Jacksonville.
Yeah. Listen, at least they're beating some teams.
I got a cool Buffalo story if we got time before we
let's wrap it up with the Buffalo story.
We're gonna wrap it up. Yeah, let's do it.
So my first ever game I ever played in was at Buffalo.
Wow.
It was the first ever game I played in
that stadium, right? It's still the same
stadium, right?
Okay.
And my father was there. I think he might have been the only one at the game. And in my rookie year, I think it was week 3, New Orleans at Buffalo. I don't remember who was playing quarterback or anything, but I remember number 43. That's the number I remember. Because it was kickoff return, and it's so vivid in my mind. Like a lot of other plays that I've made or people made against me, it's a blur. But this one, I haven't played all year, meaning it was only week 3, but being at the bottom of the roster as an undrafted free agent, I was never on practice squad. I was always on the active roster. But for game day, you only play 46 guys. So that 47, 48 guy, 49th guy, sometimes they're injuries, sometimes they used to be quarterbacks, right? The third quarterback. I was that 47, 48th guy on the roster, and I finally activated me against Buffalo. So I'm on kickoff return. I'm on the front line, and this was the real kickoff return,
right?
Real kickoffs where guys had an unlimited amount of space that they can run, and it was kicking from the 30-yard line, so they were going to bring the ball out. There was a real wedge. Like, this was real kickoff, real special teams, right? So I go down, I do my count. 1, 2, 3, number 43. 1, 2, 3, number 43. Okay, cool. So I run down, I'm sprinting. And on KOR, you get to your spot and you have to climb, what they call it. You climb, and then you engage, and then you put your butt to the returner, right? I know what I'm supposed to do. I've done it in college plenty of times. I've been doing it in practice every day. Had a great training camp. Run down the field. Everything was like it was, on the practice field. Everything was like it was college. I run down the field and get to my mark. I'm climbing, and 43. He's a fullback. He's kind of a shorter, thick, solid.
It's a hockey puck.
Yes, very solid. He hit me so hard. The first thing that hit the ground was my head.
Oh, damn.
Ooh, legs went up in the air and everything. So this is what made it worse. Two things that made it worse.
Did you poop? Did you poop a little? You did.
No. That would have been real bad. This is what made it worse, right? Two things that made it worse. The first thing was that when I got up, I'm like, holy shit, what the hell was that, right? I'm going towards the sideline. I guess you can call them the rookie gallery, right? The rookie gallery, the guys that are injured reserve, the inactive guys,
right? The
practice squad guys. These guys been waiting for me to play, and watching me.
That's right. And they're waiting to tell you what they think of what just happened.
So I go to the sideline, and you can see it. It looked like they just finished laughing their asses off. So they see me. They was like, hey, JC, hey, man, you get him next time. And everybody had their own thing to say. Hey, you got to drop your pads, man. You got to drop your pads. Hey, man, you can't let him do that to you. Like, everybody had their own input on my situation. I ended up having 2 tackles that game on kickoff, which was cool. Okay. My first game out. But this one made it worse. That made it worse. And then after the game, the only person at the game was my father. You know what he said to me?
Oh, no.
As soon as I see him, I said, what's up, Dad? I was so excited to play my first game.
First game.
I mean, that happens. You get smacked up. That happens, right? He said, ooh, that boy knocked you out, boy. I'm like, come on, Dad. Man. Then you see the other tackles I made. He said, yeah, but man.
You know what you say to him at that? You say, next time, send mom.
Right. You just lost your ticket to the next game, Pop.
Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, that was my welcome to the NFL moment. After my first game I ever played in against Buffalo, I got baptized.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't know who it was. Number 43 was a fullback. He served me up something righteous for sure.
In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.
Yes.
Well, I will tell you first off, that's a great story. I think now we have to track him down and tell him that JC's coming out.
I'm surprised you haven't done it already.
I'm thinking about looking it up.
And let me tell you something. Stuff like that back in the day, when people were hitting people back in the day, you didn't take none of that personal. You know what I mean? Like, you don't take, somebody that could maybe do something illegal to you, like that's different. But I hit so many guys. I done knock down, put guys on their back so many times in the league. Especially back then, 09, 10, 11, 12, before they start changing up the rules, they moved the kickoff up and, stuff started changing. They started taking the physicality out of football. And now you have the product that they have now. No more jacked up. Quarterbacks are, getting, helped because they get, taken down, not even hard, just on the wrong angle.
Because you landed on him, you got a penalty, right? If your arm touches his helmet, it's a penalty.
Roughing the passer with just having his hand on your shoulder.
That's right.
Honestly, I'm surprised that people still love football as much as we all love football, and they really try to take the physicality out of football.
Yeah.
But I still love it. I still love the game.
I get where they're coming from to a certain extent because you see what it does, right? You see the CTE, you see with guys like Teddy Bruschi, you see things. I mean, there are so many guys that have just massive issues that enrollment in Pee Wee League games and Pop Warner and all that kind of stuff was falling because people were so scared. My kid is 12 years old. Even if he wanted to play football, I wasn't going to let him because there's such concern about neck injuries, head injuries, consistently hitting, with that kind of thing can really do some damage to the brain. But you're right. It does take some of that primal feel out of the game that we all loved watching so much way back in the day. So it's like you got two arguments, right? One for each way.
Yeah. It's, again, I'll never understand or never know how it feels to run on that field, JC. Like you've done it, and like every single time you tell us,
that's a dream.
Well, I've run on the field, but nobody was there, so it's a little bit different.
Well, I got tackled by security.
I
didn't like it. They didn't like it when I did it. I probably should have had some clothes on, right? That might have helped.
I do miss it though, boys. People ask me all the time. I do miss it, and some people, they like, oh, I don't miss playing. I miss the locker room. I miss playing, man. I miss making plays. I don't miss being hurt, but I do miss being hit. Yeah. Like being hit without being hurt is not bad. Right. Like I don't mind, getting, blocked by a tackle, put on my back. That was part of the game.
Good hit.
It didn't happen a lot, but it happened.
I can't help it. Anytime I hear about being on the field and getting hit, who's not a player, because people always have to watch themselves on the sidelines. I think of that movie Necessary Roughness, or right at the end, the guy's sitting there talking to the dean. He has all the papers, and all of a sudden the player hits him, and you see all the papers go flying, and his hair is like sticking up all over the place. Yeah, that's what I imagine it would be like too. So anyway, with that being said, this is the Big Blue Report. You can catch new episodes every single week as we break down the New York Football Giants. That is Ryan Darlington. Jonathan Casillas, he's our captain too, but he was the defensive captain of the New York Football Giants. Guys, check out the show on all your podcast platforms. We will see you next week as we break down the game against Buffalo and preview the Washington Commanders. Let the division game start. Hopefully we'll be able to talk about a win and maybe predict another one. You never know. We'll see you guys next week here on the Big Blue Report. See you then.